Emanuela Orlandi disappeared on June 22, 1983. Emanuela was the child of a Vatican employee, and she and her family lived in the Vatican. She has never been found. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going. It is going. It's wintry and
Mm-hmm.
cold and blustery. It's definitely November,
Yeah,
and I'm here for it, honestly.
I
It's
am
good.
too. I was so ready.
I'm also really impressed with my little chihuahuas because my puppies.
Mm.
They do not mind the snow and they don't mind going outside. And this is the first time I've had chihuahuas, and I've had several chihuahuas over the years that
Mm-hmm.
actually are willing to go outside when it's cold.
Wow, I'm
And these
impressed.
guys are in and out of the doggy door 1,000 times a day, in and out and in and out and in and out, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
amazed. Even when we had some snow last week, they were out playing in it. So, it's giving me hope.
Yes, that is really good because, gosh,
Yeah.
my little dogs, you have to open the door for them, and then they look for a minute, like, and sometimes they're like, "Yeah, no," and they go back to the couch,
Is
and
it
other
worth it?
times they run
Yeah.
up. But we still have snow. You guys lost all your snow. We
Mhm.
didn't. We still have snow.
Wow.
And I'm sure we'll be getting some more. But yeah, I agree. I was ready for the change and ready
Yeah.
for the winter weather, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Also hearing from my kids, it sounds like all of them will be home for about a week over Thanksgiving. So,
Yeah, I'm
yay,
excited.
and also pray for me.
Yeah, you better stock that fridge.
My God, it'll be total chaos. It's great. I'm gonna love it. It's just
Yeah, it
we go
is.
from being empty nesters where this house is pretty quiet most of the time,
Yeah,
to having a house full. It's definitely an adjustment on your nerves. Yeah.
I would imagine because your kids are loud.
Oh my God, they're so loud and chaotic,
Yeah,
and I love every second of it, but there is a part of me that just needs to retreat to my office and shut the door for a minute.
right. Like, oh
And
my God,
immediately
take a
someone will
breath.
definitely barge in here and go, "What you doing?"
Mhm.
So, you know, but I don't get this very often to have all 3 of them under the same roof, so I'm very excited. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm already thinking about, "Hmm, probably need to go to Costco and go crazy."
yeah. Pick up some serious food to feed those three.
Mhm. No
Yeah,
doubt.
well, that is
Yeah.
cool. Well, this is our Tuesday episode, and I know, Katie, you are going to kick it off for us with some WTF news.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, you probably recognize, get a picture here, this gelatinous glob of mucus.
Jar of angry mayonnaise. I don't know.
Mhm. As Alex Jones. And you probably already know who Alex Jones is. He is the owner of InfoWars. He is the man who has spent the last decade trying to claim that the Sandy Hook massacre didn't happen, that it was just a government hoax to try to get rid of more gun rights, that
Crisis actors.
the children never existed, the parents were just crisis actors, including some members of law enforcement. He
Mm,
really has laid it on thick, and his
so
words
gross.
have created an unbelievable amount of hardship for these families who already had a child or teacher murdered, who already have gone through one of the most unthinkable things to ever you could even ever imagine. Classrooms full of kindergartners massacred. The horror of it is so unbelievable, and then to have the cruelty of this on top of it. And his words, because the people who listen to Alex Jones tend to be, I think, probably fairly unstable and willing to believe anything. And they have taken those words and used that as an opportunity to harass these families relentlessly, to consistently remind them that their children didn't exist, that this isn't real, to send death threats, to make it impossible for them to work. The things that have happened because of Jones and the fact that he's continued to keep these words going long after the fact and continue to say this stuff, well, it's costing him big. So, as you know, he's already been in court twice and now three times this year in being sued in civil court by these families because they've had enough. And also by one law enforcement agent who also has received an unbelievable amount of uh, harassment. And already he has been ordered to pay nearly $1 billion in damages. Well, a judge decided last week that we're going to go a little further. So on the 11th, a judge has ordered him to pay an additional $473 million in punitive damages, which brings his culpability up now to $1.44 billion.
It's unbelievable.
This judge also froze his assets so that he
Good.
will be unable to transfer any of that money out of the country. He already declared bankruptcy or tried to declare bankruptcy earlier this year, trying to separate himself from his business in a way that, well, I mean, the business has gone bankrupt and wasn't me, it was the business. And the judge said, no, you are the business.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Alex is going to be lucky to have his underpants by the time this is over. No one
Right?
wants those for sure. But yeah, he is getting his comeuppance hardcore, and I am here for it.
Me too.
Absolutely here for it. And while we're at it, let's just reiterate Sandy Hook did happen.
Yes.
Those children are real. Their parents are real. The law enforcement involved are real. This is not some kind of government hoax, and the idea of that is absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It's been used to claim the same shit about lots of other school shootings, like
Hmm.
Parkland
Yeah.
and others. And it's just so gross. Like, what is the matter with you people?
Hmm.
My God.
Yep. People even started that after Uvalde.
Yeah. It's horrifying.
Just because you say it does not make it true.
No.
But we see this in certain men, and I'm going to just say it, white men.
Mm-hmm.
Come at me. I don't care.
Mm-mm. Not at
That
all.
they seem to carry some kind of really toxic trait that because they say it, that just makes it true.
Oh, yeah.
And
No, it's
I've
that
seen this
superiority.
on multiple stages with
Yep.
men that think that just because that they believe this is the way it is, that just makes it true and they have every right to say it. Well, you don't.
Nope. And let's not even get into free speech, because free
Right.
speech protects you from consequences from the government for speaking up against the government. It does
Mhm.
not free you from consequences of being a dumb fucking asshole.
That's right.
There are consequences for your actions. You might be able to
Mhm.
say the words, but it does not mean there won't be consequences.
Yep. Not at all. So there you have it. So, Alex, I hope you have the day you deserve.
Yeah, me
And
as
with that,
well.
I'm going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
Yes. So the story I'm going to tell you today is not a new story, and it's not even a breaking news story, even though I used that segment because I didn't have something else to call this. This is an old case, a very old case. This is from 1983. This is the
Wow.
story of the Vatican girl.
Okay.
And I have to tell you that I did not know this story. This was new to me. There's a documentary on Netflix that came out in 2019, I think, that is very good, very helpful at telling this story. But this is a story that needs to be told, because this story is still an unsolved kidnapping. And you'll see why I use my air quotes in that in a minute. So this is the story of the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. Emanuela was 15 years old, and she lived at the Vatican. Now, I didn't know. that people can live at the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, darn. Oh, there it is. Okay, this is Manuela. So Emanuela was in high school. She went to a high school in Rome, and she was on a break. School wasn't in session at this time, but she played the flute and she was taking flute lessons.
Okay.
So she went 3 days a week to this music conservatory to take her flute lessons.
Okay.
So on the day that she went missing, she asked for a ride to her flute lesson, but couldn't get it. Somebody wasn't able to, so she had to take a bus. It's kind of a bus, just
Yeah.
coming from the Vatican out into Rome, which are actually literally different countries. If you don't know, Vatican City is basically its own country within Rome. So
they have their own police, their own government, basically, which is the
their own
Vatican.
laws.
Yeah.
And that's where some of this is interesting as well. So Emanuela goes to meet before her flute lesson. She is said to have been meeting a woman who wanted to hire her to sell Avon cosmetics. And then she went to her flute lesson. She did see a friend of hers that day. A friend of hers saw her at a bus stop and says they saw her get into a black BMW vehicle. She has never been seen again since that moment.
Oh boy.
So at one point that day, she called home to tell them she was going to be getting home late because she had started working for this woman who was paying her to sell Avon. So somewhere she had been contacted about this Avon thing. She met up with somebody, she went to her flute lesson, then she supposedly gets into a car and disappears. Her family, of course, is frantic. They report her missing almost immediately. The police give it some time, as they're known to do. What if she's just with friends? They did actually start looking for her on the day that she went missing, but they waited a few hours, which she's a 15-year-old child. You shouldn't have waited 1 second.
Right.
And, best case scenario, you find her hanging out with her friends and it's all okay.
Right. But this is an ongoing conversation from time immemorial about missing teenage girls.
So the way that this is handled by the Vatican police is strange. All of it is strange. Let me tell you some of the things that happened, because none of it really makes any sense. So this is June 22nd. So on June 25th, a young male who said that he was a 16-year-old boy named Pierre Luigi called Manuela's family and said that they talked to her, that they saw her meeting in Piazza Navona in Rome. They described her hair, her flute, and her glasses. So they did seem to know what she looked like. And they said that she had just had a haircut and introduced herself as Barbarella. He said that she told them that she had just run away from home and was going to sell Avon. This phone call just comes out of the blue. Like, okay. So, and this is what keeps happening, are these phone calls that keep coming to Emanuela's family. So then on the 28th of June, so 3 days after that, a man, and the irony of this is hilarious in a weird way. First man was Pierre Luigi. Second man, Mario. If you know anything about, Nintendo, it's kind of funny, those two names. Anyway, he says he owns a bar near Ponte Vittorio. And this is a bar between the Vatican and the music school. And he says that he has a new customer, and it's a girl named Barbara. And that she told him that she was a fugitive. And she was on the run, but that she was going to return home for her sister's wedding. From the get-go, these stories are weird. They're difficult to confirm. the police are still just not really doing anything. So the family plaster Rome with missing persons posters
Sure.
about her, right? So her picture is everywhere. They want everybody to know that
Yeah.
she's missing. And then a very strange thing happens. On July 3rd, Pope John Paul II addresses Vatican City. You know how he would come out, stand in a window, and speak, right? Seen the videos of it lots of
Yeah.
times. While he's speaking, he does something very strange. He addresses Emanuela's disappearance. This is not something the Pope would normally ever speak about.
Mm-hmm.
He makes up an appeal to whoever is responsible for her kidnapping. Now, this is the first time it's ever been called a kidnapping, and it's coming from the Pope, right?
Yeah.
So he makes this plea that the kidnappers please return her home to her family. And he appears to be speaking to a group of people, a
To
group of
someone.
men,
Yeah.
someone, right? And immediately people are like, how does the Pope know about this? Why does the Pope know about this? You know? So then a couple of days after that, the Orlandi family start receiving more of these weird phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
So they get these phone calls that Emanuela has been kidnapped and is a prisoner of a terrorist group because they are trying to use her as leverage to get Mehmet Ali Aqua released. Now, Mehmet Ali Aqua is the Turkish guy that shot John Paul II, Pope John Paul II, in May of 1981. If you remember, he was shot while he was in a crowd of people. He was actually shot, but he lived. And Mehmet Ali Aqua is the guy that shot him. And so he's in prison in the Vatican. And so it's basically what they're telling her family is that she's being held hostage in order to force his release.
Would explain why the Pope knew she was kidnapped.
Right. They didn't give any other information, but they skip more calls. One from someone they call the American because it sounds like he has an American accent, who plays them a recording of Emanuela's voice over the phone, supposedly as proof of life.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What a nightmare for this family.
Right. I mean, they're absolutely terrified. What the hell is going on here? And there continue to be reported sightings of Emanuela around the city. But, I mean, if there are this many sightings of her, because there were quite a few reported, where is she? Why are people seeing her? And are people seeing her? You know? So somebody also calls the Vatican itself and makes this same demand to let Mehmet Ali Aqua out of prison, or they're going to kill her. They're going to kill Emanuela. So also, the man that makes the call mentions Mario and Pierre Luigi and those earlier phone calls, and they're all members of the organization. So when those calls were made, they were made like they were just random people like, hey, I saw your daughter's missing. I saw her, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Now, this person implies that they're all part of an organization.
And they couldn't have known their names, right? That wasn't in the news. Ooh.
Weird. It's weird. It's weird. Yes. Because initially these sightings were supposed to be just random. Well, clearly they're not if this person knows the names of these callers. So then on the 6th of July, another man with an American accent calls a local news agency and tells them the demand for the exchange for Aqua or Orlandi will be killed. They're asking for the Pope to participate. Now, remember, this is after the Pope has already mentioned this, right?
Right.
And they give them 20 days. They also say that they're going to leave a basket with some items in a public square to prove that they do have Emanuela. So they were photocopies of the sheet music that she had been playing, and her school music identity card, a receipt for her tuition, which I don't know how they got that, and a handwritten note that was supposedly written by Emanuela.
Oh boy.
So another phone call is made to one of Emanuela's classmates saying that he has her, and they have 20 days to make the exchange with Aqua. And they want a direct telephone line to the Secretary of State, whose name is Agostino Casaroli. So they install a line just for this person to call the Secretary of State. They also direct Emanuela's family to make a public statement and tell the anonymous phone callers to stop calling them, but to call their attorney instead. Not the police,
Right.
an attorney. And that does happen. Yeah. So just lots of weird, like, why are the police not handling this themselves directly kind of questions. Right. A total of 16 phone calls were made from different public phone booths by this man who's supposedly the American. At one point, there's been a man who has been stating that he is, in fact, the American, and that's been disproven. So we don't know who the hell that guy was. And basically, that's just the end of it. They don't release Aqua. They don't find Emanuela. Her case just sort of disappears.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, they don't release the guy. Also, if they killed her, they didn't say where she is or where her body is or anything. It just all goes cold after a while.
Oh, that's so terrible.
So it's just horrible for her family.
Yeah.
You know? Her parents are now dead. And so then there have been a bunch of, like, they find bones somewhere and everyone immediately thinks it must be Emanuela. In May of 2001, there was a human skull discovered, and they immediately thought it was Emanuela. It definitely wasn't. We don't even know for sure. Like, there's so much information that's held by the Vatican about this case that we don't know. But here are some of the theories. So one is that was really true, that there were people, they think it's Bulgarian agents of the Grey Wolves, which is a Turkish ultra-national youth group.
Wow.
And Aqua was a member. And so it's possible that maybe that really was legit, that they were really trying to get him out. But again, we don't know because they never released him.
Wow.
And they never found her body. One judge, based on what he had kind of found out about the Grey Wolves, said that Orlandi was taken to Paris and just lived there for a long time in the Muslim community. It didn't make any sense at all. She wasn't a Muslim.
Right.
And she was a child when she was taken. And, like, she was 15. You're not going to brainwash her life out of her at 15.
No.
So another theory. So around the time that she went missing, there was kind of a big money laundering scandal that had gone on with the Italian mafia and the Vatican Bank. So it was discovered that the Italian mafia was taking money out of their bank in Rome, transferring it to the Vatican Bank, adding more money to it, and then transferring it back to the bank in Rome. Because, there are reporting laws to protect against money laundering, right? Well, guess who doesn't comply with those reporting laws, or didn't at the time?
Yeah.
Vatican Bank. So you could put money that came from anywhere into the Vatican Bank, and you didn't have to prove where it had come from. You didn't have to prove its legitimacy. So there were some thoughts that she was kidnapped as a way to try to get these gangsters out of trouble.
Sure.
There was a rumor for a while that she was actually buried in the tomb of a well-known Italian gangster called Enrico de Pettis.
Oh.
They actually opened his tomb and took some DNA and stuff. No evidence that she was there.
Mm-hmm.
Although an old girlfriend of de Pettis has reported that she believes that he did kidnap her, but they've never found any evidence of that.
Interesting. Okay.
And then there is an 85-year-old exorcist named Father Gabriel Amorth
Okay.
said that she was kidnapped by a member of the Vatican police for sex parties. So she was trafficked and then murdered. And he also said that there were some foreign embassies involved in that.
That seems the least likely.
Well, yeah, except that. So in the documentary, they interview a friend of Emanuela's, someone that was good friends with her at the time that she disappeared. And she said that one day Emanuela called her really upset and said, I need to talk to you. I need to tell you something. So they meet up. And this is like 2 or 3 days before she goes missing, or it's just very shortly before. She tells her, Emanuela tells her friend, that she was walking in the Vatican gardens because these kids that lived in the Vatican, they basically just had the run of the place. They had the gardens, like they just lived there. And so they played outside in the gardens and stuff. Emanuela tells her friend, according to the friend, that she had been walking in the Vatican gardens and that she had been bothered by someone who was very close to Pope John Paul II. Bothered was a term that meant sexually harassed, attacked, something, some kind of sexual pass made of her, right? The friend has never told anyone because she was absolutely terrified, because then just a few days later, Emanuela disappears and is never found. So she had never told anybody that until this documentary, because she has lived in fear her whole life that she knew something that might get her killed that probably got her friend killed. Something I didn't know that was released in this documentary is that in all of the sexual abuse allegations and all of that that's gone on in the Catholic Church, that has never happened to anyone within the Vatican. No priests within the Vatican or church officials within the Vatican have ever been publicly accused of molesting children.
Wow.
And so there's this is the other theory, is that she was bothered by someone who was close to the Pope. And because she was telling people about that, she was made to go away. And we don't know if that's true, but honestly, that rings more true to me than these other stories.
It does, yeah.
You know, that the implication here is that the Vatican knew the entire time, and that these other stories were made up in order to be subterfuge for the police, and also really mostly for her parents, because
for her family. Yeah.
The police absolutely knew what happened to her.
Whoa.
This is the only unsolved missing persons case that has ever existed in the Vatican.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, this documentary didn't come out in 2019. It was a different one. This documentary just came out in October of 2022.
Okay.
It's very interesting. It's called Vatican Girl: The Disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. I recommend it very much because they do a great job of covering all of this information. There's more information than I've even given you because it's a big story. The bottom line is Emanuela has still never been found.
Yeah.
They have dug up tombs before that they thought might have her in them.
Yeah.
Never found her. There've been quite a few incidences of that. Of some tip comes in somewhere that she was buried in this tomb or that tomb. There was this princess and duchess that were buried in a Vatican cemetery.
Yeah.
I thought she was buried in their tomb. They actually dug those tombs up. They didn't even find the princess and the duchess in there. There were no bodies in those tombs,
Well,
which
what?
was a little concerning
Where
also.
are they? Whoa.
But it's just like there's always another story, always another direction, always another take it this way, take it that
Misdirection.
way.
Yeah.
I think it's all misdirection, all of it.
Yeah.
Whatever really
Wow.
happened to her, I doubt we ever know.
Mm-hmm.
Did Pope John Paul II actually know what happened to this young girl?
Sure makes
Certainly
you
have
wonder.
questions. And
And
there was
sorry if I'm not really, trusting members of the Vatican or the Catholic Church when it comes to
no,
harming children.
right. So I wanted to share this story because it's interesting, but it's also terrifying. The
Mm-hmm.
way that girls and women are
Mm-hmm.
used as pawns
Yeah,
in stories like this.
definitely.
And poor Emanuela's parents, I mean, they died never knowing what happened to their daughter. Her
Yeah.
siblings have never known what had happened to her. Her friends. It's a tremendously traumatic experience. Her poor friend that has waited until now to
Yeah.
tell that story, which very well might actually be what
What
happened to her
the real
or why.
story. Yeah.
So I just wanted to share it. I found it interesting. And I think that this is, you find these old stories and recognize that no one is still looking for Emanuela.
Yeah.
And so bringing her name up, bringing this story up, just, you know,
Mm-hmm. It's always
so
good.
that somebody might remember.
Yeah.
Somebody might remember something, you know?
Yep.
I mean,
Absolutely.
and honestly, it's been so long now that probably a lot of the players in this case are dead, you know?
Likely. Yeah.
I mean, Pope John Paul II's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrifying to me. But she was somebody's victim,
Yeah.
used in some way.
And she was somebody
And she was just a
and
15-year-old
somebody's child and didn't deserve any of this.
and her siblings, she's got
Yeah.
siblings that were interviewed
Mm-hmm.
in the documentary. They're
Wow.
still absolutely horrified.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just heartbreaking still that they've never known what happened to their sister.
Yep.
Her flute turned up at one point,
Wow.
and they showed it to her parents to confirm if it in fact was her flute. And they did believe that it was.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was just a total dead end. Just
Yeah.
magically her flute shows up in somebody's storage. Like there's so
Yeah.
much attempt to misdirect in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Like intentional misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
It's just horrifying.
Which,
So
can you imagine what that put her parents through?
no, because they were
The constant
constantly
phone calls or maybe a lead that wasn't a lead. I mean,
mm,
how many times did they get their hopes up to the point that nothing gave them hope anymore? My
right.
God.
They talk about in the documentary how frustrated they are with every time bones are found anywhere
Yeah.
that they're called immediately.
Mm-hmm.
One time they found bones that were from 200 AD.
Oh, God.
And the first thought was, this is an Emanuela, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
man. It's
Mm-hmm.
just dumb. But her family has been tormented about this,
Yeah.
from 1983 on.
Wow.
And I honestly, unless somebody really feels like they've got to come clean, I doubt we'll ever know what happened to
Mm-hmm.
Emanuela or where her body is.
Mm-hmm.
There are many people who believe that her body is in the Vatican.
Yeah.
It's been there the whole time. We don't know, but all of it is sketchy. None of this was handled the way that a missing child should be handled.
No.
Definitely her life was not valued
No.
the way that it should have been. So I just wanted to tell Emanuela's story because I think that stories like this should continue to be told.
Yeah.
For the sake of her and her family
Yeah.
and also for whoever did this to her and has gotten
Mm-hmm.
away with it.
Yeah.
Are there other young women who've been harmed in this same kind of situation? Have there been pedophiles in the Vatican? And if kids start speaking up, then they just disappear? Is that what's happened? Are
Right.
there other cases that we don't know about? So many questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend watching the Netflix documentary. It is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely points toward specifically that the Pope had knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that certainly rings true, doesn't it?
Happened to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a horrifying thought.
Yeah.
So that's what we know. And if there's
Okay.
ever an update in this case, which I doubt there will be, I will most definitely share it with you.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, Katie, I know you have a little bit of crime news for us.
Yes. Okay. Does the name Mark David Chapman mean anything to you?
Mm-hmm.
It should, of course.
Sure he does, yeah.
This is the man who gunned down John Lennon in 1980 on December 8th in the evening.
Yeah.
And he's been up for parole again.
Yes.
And again and again and again and again. He has appeared before the parole board every 2 years since he has gone to prison.
Wow.
And why? Why does he get to? Why?
Yeah, why every 2 years? That seems really frequent, doesn't it?
Yes.
Weird.
Well, every 2 years since he's been a potential. Every 2 years since he's been, potentially able to have parole. So this is the 12th time he's been in front of the parole board. Just this last week. And yet again, the parole board said, nah. He's 67 now. And here's what he told the parole board. And he actually told them this in 2020 as well. That the reason that he killed John Lennon is that he was tired of being a nobody.
My God.
And he'd been thinking long and hard about how to not be a nobody anymore. And it had occurred to him that if he murdered someone super famous, that would definitely help him to have his name known and he wouldn't be a nobody any longer.
Wow.
And
that is super twisted.
It is, but we have seen this happen in cases of school shootings and other events where the perpetrator was really enjoying the attention. It makes me think of Ethan Crumbley.
Oh, yeah.
A school shooter out of Michigan last year who also has, been very keen to, after he was arrested, he started asking the jail for his fan mail.
Yes.
Wanting to know. And he also idolized other school shooters. Now, I realize that Chapman is not a school shooter, but by the same token, somehow in the twisted minds of some of these people, being well known for committing crimes does something for them.
Right.
It's really something else. But I just wanted to report that for the 12th time, the parole board has said, no, brah, you're staying put. So good.
I'm glad to hear that. Because
I hope he stays there until he dies. He doesn't deserve to get out.
No.
There was actually photography or video of him having an album signed by Lennon earlier in the day.
Yes.
And then a few hours later came back and shot him in cold blood in front of his apartment building in New York City. And all because he wanted to be more famous or be famous, be known, to not be a nobody. Good God.
Terrifying.
Yes. So as for you, Mark David Chapman, who will always sit at the top of the FOS list, I hope you have the day you deserve.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I'm very happy to hear that he is not getting out.
Nah.
Because
nobody wants that.
No. Well, you guys, we've done it. This is our Tuesday episode. We'll be back on Wednesday with another episode, Wednesday night, with our live stream Wednesday night case updates. Please remember that if you watch an episode and the information in it seems outdated, you should probably check the date that it was uploaded, and then check our Wednesday night case updates, because that is how we update cases. We are well aware that things have changed in many cases since they were originally reported on our channel. We seem to be being reminded of this a lot in our comments, and that's why I wanted to address it. Yes, we're aware. Please check the date that that was updated, and then go to our Wednesday night case update live streams to find out what happened after that. Because unless there's enough for a full episode, we just update information every Wednesday night. So it's pretty easy. If you search for a name, you might find the original episode, and then you might find several updates that have that name in it, because we've talked about it again with new information coming.
Yep.
So
That's kind of how the internet works.
It is how the internet works. And we've noticed lately that maybe some people are having a little trouble realizing that. So
this is true.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. It helps us grow. Check us out on Patreon. We are True Crime Squad on Patreon. We do offer bonus content for our patrons. So for a nominal monthly fee, you help support what we do, and you get some extra episodes. So check that out. And as always, we are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.